All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I think we had a bit of a technical issue at the beginning there with some internet issues, but we are here and we are ready to go. So thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we're going to be talking about why you should be promoting gifts of security in 2024. And before we get started, we wanted to acknowledge, get the slides ready, here we go. We want to acknowledge that our team at Canada Helps is grateful to have the opportunity to meet and work on the many Indigenous homelands across this land that we share in Canada. As settlers on this lands, it is important to acknowledge that our Vancouver offices are located on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish people. The Montreal offices are located on the Kanien'kehá:ka Mohawk territory, and the land on which we operate in Toronto is the traditional territory of the Wendat, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. We want to express our respect for the territories we reside in and honor the diverse Indigenous people who have lived and worked on this land historically and presently. We, the staff and leadership at Canada Helps, are committed to being active participants in reconciliation. We are committed to continuing to amplify Indigenous voices and learning how our work affects Indigenous people. Now, before we get started, there are a few housekeeping items that we always like to go over before any of our presentations. So first, a little bit about Canada Helps. Canada Helps is a charitable foundation increasing giving in Canada through technology. For Canadians, CanadaHelps.org provides a trusted one-stop destination for making donations, fundraising, or learning about any charity in Canada. For Canada's 86,000 plus charities, we are also developing affordable fundraising tools and provide free training and education for charities so that all charities have the capacity to increase their impact and succeed in the digital age. So training opportunities just like this. Since 2000, more than 3.5 million Canadians have donated over $3.1 billion to charities using Canada Helps. So for today, if you do have a question, the recording will be mailed to you after this webinar, so you'll be able to watch the recorded video on demand and slow down any part that we might have gone through quickly, but we will make sure to go at a pretty easy pace today. And you can hear us, but we can't hear you. So if you do have any questions or are experiencing any technical difficulties, just type them into the question log at any time, and we will try our best to address them as soon as we can. So for today, we have a special presenter that is going to be joining us, Patty Levitt-Reid. She is a Canada Helps brand ambassador. Patty is one of Canada's leading and respected financial experts. As a former chief financial commentator on CTV News, Patty is well experienced in coaching her audience on how to save money, stretch their income, and get the biggest bang for their hard-earned bucks. So her unique and skillful ability to translate complicated and detailed personal finance strategies into frank, savvy financial advice has transformed the lives of many, many Canadians. And we are very, very privileged and lucky to have her speak with us today. A quick overview on what we are going to be talking about today in terms of our agenda. We are going to be first talking about why should we promote securities. Patty is going to go through a few really major reasons why your charity should be already accepting charities or considering it. And the last part is going to be accepting gifts of securities on Canada Helps. So I'll be walking you through all the technical aspects of how you can actually accept those donations of securities on Canada Helps. I'll give you a few examples and show you a few of those examples out in the wild as well. So with that, I will pass it over to Patty.
Thank you so much, Phil. You know, I'm absolutely delighted to be here. For those of you who may already know, I am a financial planner, and I have this concept of spend some money, save some money, and give some money. And it really comes down to that three-legged stool. And if one of those buckets or stool legs are out of balance, you fall over. And it's simple, but it's not simplistic. There is a lot going on. And I know the reality is that many will get requests for donations. They'll be stopped on the street. They may get phone calls. I've had them all. And the reality is that we can't respond to everything, but we can respond to some. And so what I'd like to do is talk about the gift of securities. And it's one of those areas that some people shy away from, others delve in deeply. And what I can tell you, I don't try to time the market. But we're going to talk a little bit about the market because with the S&P TSX up about 14.48% just this year alone, it might suggest that some people have some capital gains that they would like to protect and they want to make a statement. So let's go to the first slide and talk about the tax advantages. And, quite frankly, right off the top, I know for a fact I have two daughters that are both in this particular industry. Both have told me on more than one occasion, people don't give mom for the tax benefit. They give because it's of value to them. It's aligned the charity to their values. But I can tell you, dealing with people on the other side, it may not be the top reason they give, but it's definitely a close second. And so when you look at the fact that you can avoid a capital gain, you can give more to the charity gets a bigger win potentially, and with the markets doing well, they may just decide to give a little more. So where do I sort of see this area? It used to be in the high net worth area. Those people, and I've had a chance to work with them over the years, who have over $25 million or more of investable assets, that might have been your target market, but that isn't the case anymore. When you look at the amount of money between now and 2026, $1 trillion is going to transfer hands from the boomers to the next generation. A lot of Canadians have amassed a lot of wealth and they want to give back and they might not be sure how to do it. And that's where you can come in. Let's look at this potential for more or larger donations on the second slide, because what they'll do is they'll say, okay, a donor with $10,000 appreciated securities can donate the full amount rather than $7,500 roughly in cash. We have seen securities appreciate. It isn't always the best time to ask someone to donate securities. Markets, like economic cycles, like any cycle, go up and down. But now it is absolutely a prime time. I can tell you that when people want to give, their life changes, life happens. I've used this story before, but it's very real and it hits home. My granddaughter, our granddaughter, Eloise, she was 8 months old and she was diagnosed with hepatoblastoma. That is a very, very rare form of liver cancer. It was stage 3. She's 8 months old. She went to the hospital for sick kids. I kind of buried the lead. She is cancer-free today, a year later. It's phenomenal. They did precision treatment and that targeted the type of cancer she had. If you had asked me, is this somewhere we would have given in the past, not for a lack of wanting to, but maybe a lack of awareness. But life can happen. And in appreciation of what has happened, there was a moment when I was walking through sick kids with my son, and he looked up at the donor wall and he said, if you had asked me what my values were, and he's in his mid-30s, I'm not sure I could have pinpointed exactly what I want to do to make a difference. And then he looked at me and he said, but I do now. I want our family on the donor wall. And so that to me is thought leadership. And thought leadership works in conjunction with donating securities because people want to make a difference. They do. And now they can in so many ways. So the next we're going to talk a little bit about costs. When I joined Canada Helps, I got to be honest, I didn't know a lot about the organization. I had reported on it on BNN, and I knew they represented over 86,000 charities. I knew that they wanted to help, and the amount of people and money raised was phenomenal. And then there was this thing called a fee, and I thought, why would I go through you instead of going directly to the charity of my choice? And at the time they looked and they said, because Patty, there are 86,000 charities. Not all of these charities have the infrastructure in place to help us, to make sure the donation goes through seamlessly with a tax receipt, the list goes on. And I thought about it. And I said, how do you qualify to be a charity? You file a tax return. If you file a tax return, you can be on the list. That to me was important. And so when I look at lowering the cost processed, that's a big deal, no question about it. But I also think it isn't about a justification around costs. People care about costs, but they also know things cost money. And so as a result, it comes down more to an explanation of the costs. And so, larger donations result in less costs. You get a larger donation typically when someone donates a security. Statistics will show you that. I also think, and then reason number 4, as I was thinking about it, I started to think about how to grow your business. Every single element of, an entrepreneurial mindset is about growth. How do you grow? How do you diversify? How do you ensure you have multiple income streams? And when you think about it, attractiveness to the high net worth donor is big. Right here, we say about, appreciate stocks, looking for tax efficient ways to give, but you're also broadening out. And don't get me wrong, I still respond to everybody on the street who asks me for a small donation because I think, why not? But this may be a little more targeted. It may be a little more back to my thought leadership. It may be in keeping with a high net worth focus on legacy. Um, Legacy is a big deal. In a previous job I had, I'm going to say decades ago, and I literally mean it, decades ago, when I was speaking to those high valued clients, they would say to me, Patty, I worry about my legacy. And when I would sit down with them, I would say, talk to me about what you mean your legacy. They don't mean the distribution of their assets to their heirs. That's the easy part. I mean, you take tax considerations into place, equitable distribution, and that's easy. But what they often struggled with is, how do I give back? How do I have an impact? How can I make a difference? That was a big deal. And so when we're often talking to them, and I had the pleasure of doing that, here's how your portfolio's performed. Have you thought about giving today? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, because when you look at today's environment, reason number 5 is it can be tough to decide who to give to. And the flexibility of a donor to give to multiple charities is so important, especially when you've got the back office help to do it. Because you may have a very, very small charity that's helped your child to learn how to read, and you want to help them. Or you may decide that there are geopolitical issues that you need and want to get behind, or your donors do. Or you can decide, again, that your values don't change, but maybe your charities change. And these things come into play as well. And you still may want to give a little bit to everyone, depending on who they are. And easy management via Canada Helps can do that. So 6 is the immediate funding. I love this. And Phil's going to talk a lot more about how to facilitate the actual process. But here's something that I've concluded that I wanted to share with you. Planned gifts are amazing. No question about it. I've never had a chat with an organization that hasn't been thrilled to learn in an estate that they are going to be the beneficiaries of a lump sum of money. It would have been nice had they heard before, but it still is absolutely amazing. I can say when I joined Canada Helps, I thought about it. My own father passed away at the age of 36. I was 9. He died of a heart attack. Throughout my entire working life, and I've had a will throughout my entire working life, I've always had heart and stroke as one of the beneficiaries because I believe in the work they do. I believe it could have helped my father decades ago. And my husband, Jim, feels the same way. His father had Alzheimer. But as our portfolio has grown, our legacy gift has grown, but we've never actually communicated it. And I think there's a great opportunity to share that. That's one side of it. But back to those high net worth individuals, wanting to know what their legacy is going to be and how it's going to be received today allows for an immediate gift. And I think that this just doesn't get enough play, because an immediate gift to a charity, when you're talking to a donor, I've seen it on their face and it's remarkable. And remarkable is the opportunity to stand for something, something that happens that you've been involved in, that you've been instrumental in contributing to, that may change a way of life, the way of someone's thinking. Heck, who knows? It could change the world through research. And so when wealthy people or people with investment portfolios, and it could be the millionaire next door, you don't know what people have socked away, but we know that big transfer of wealth is going to happen. Legacy is not going to be about the money, the impact that they have, and they're going to witness it, I think is a huge selling opportunity, just a huge one. So let's go to number 7, because it's the opportunity for larger plan gifts. Powerful estate planning. I mean, it just works when you sit down with someone and you actually raise the conversation about how they would like to give back, who they would like to give back to, and the method in which they'd like to do it. People automatically, if they're not savvy in this area, they default to cash and they don't even think about this. And so this, being the donation of securities, becomes a very powerful, very viable way to give back, to increase the opportunities, as it says right there, inspire a larger gift, incorporate it right into the estate plan then. Either or, an immediate plan, a legacy plan, it all comes down to dollars and cents and how great it is for the organizations to benefit from it. And my last one, point 8, is all about diversification. If you've ever heard me talk about money and financial planning, I say every element you've got to diversify. So you think about diversification. I think about it, diversify your securities, diversify your debt. So not all of it is being charged at the same interest rate. Diversify where you invest, diversify where you donate, diversify how you give. Warren Buffett was very famous for saying, give cash if you can, write a check if you can, but if you can't, give of yourself. And for an organization to have multiple streams of methods to donate, that diversification helps, charities immensely. I kind of refer to it, I've written down here, these are truly the gifts that keep on giving. So let's just recap this very quickly. And I think I have all 8 that I've written down. Bill, boom. Oh, maybe we didn't write. Okay, I'll recap them. So the first one is the tax advantage for donors. It's one of the few areas within the government that is a win-win. There's no question about it. The alternative minimum tax has changed, but in terms of actual capital gains, this is a win. There is the potential there for a much larger donation. Costs are always going to matter. And when you talk about costs, it isn't justifying, it's all about an explanation. Donating securities can help you to grow your business. Multiple charities can benefit. You have the opportunity through donating securities to give an immediate gift today so you can see the impact, you can get involved in the impact, or you could think about it from a different perspective and your donors would think about it in terms of their legacy and their estate plan. The opportunity for larger gifts and diversification matters. When it comes down to giving, if you have an opportunity to sit down and actually talk with your donors, which you do, I know you do, I always think, what are your values? What gets you excited? What do you believe in? What will you not compromise? What are the charities, or who are the charities that are aligned to your values? Ask them, do you want to give in your own backyard, in your own community, in your own country, or do you want to broaden it out around the globe? Costs are going to matter, and it definitely warrants a conversation. And for those who can write a check, yeah, we'll take it. And for those who can't, letting them give of themselves. The point is, I think Canadians are charitable, could be a little more. And there's a golden opportunity for securities when you think about the TSX is up 14.48%. Phil, do you want to talk a little bit about the process?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. I think we were putting up an older version of the presentation and
Okay, well,
missed out
that's
on the
okay.
summary. No worries, no worries. So thank you so much, Patty. I think that was a great summary of why charities should be accepting donations of securities and why it's so important, all the benefits and advantages of those. And we'll go over those a little bit more afterwards as well. But now I'm going to talk about the how. How do we actually start doing that, especially on or specifically through the Canada Helps tools? So the nuts and bolts of how to actually set up your securities donation form. Then I'll actually show you how to do this live, but first I'll do a little bit of a summary here. First, you're going to access the form. So from your Canada Helps account, you're basically going to navigate to the customizable donation forms. And from there, you're going to create a new form. Over there, you'll be able to customize your form the way that you normally would do if you have created customizable donation forms in the past, add your branding, add your brand colors, all of that fun stuff to make sure that it fits with your website, with your brand. Everybody knows that this is associated to your charity. Next, you're going to configure the options. So you're going to enable securities donations by clicking the radio button. Very, very simple. And from there, everything is already set up. We already know what information needs to be collected. It's going to be pre-populated on that form. And there's going to be some areas that you can also customize as well. Again, I'll show you that shortly after this. And then right after that, you can just preview and publish. So test your form to ensure the functionality is working the way that you want it to work, that it looks the way that you want it to work, and then you can actually publish it in a few different ways. So this is what it actually looks like on the screen. So here we go. Perfect. So here I am on my on the Canada Helps web account, and I want to navigate to the donation form section. So that's where I am right here. First, you're going to create a new form. And on the left-hand side here, you see all the form types that you can choose from: full form, multi-form, tribute first form, and a securities form. So this is the one that we want to work with. On the right-hand side here, you see basically a live preview of what you're creating. You saw it change when I was kind of moving throughout all the different types of forms. And this is exactly what it's going to look like when you create your form as well. Here is basically a live preview. It's a bit squished, so it'll look a lot better on your actual website. We'll show you what a live version of this looks like so you have a better idea of what that is going to look like. But essentially, you're going to be letting your donors know exactly what donations of securities are. If they wanted to, they can learn how it works. Here, everything's a bit truncated, but I will show you a fuller version on a regular size screen where it looks a lot prettier. And essentially, the form has all the information that you need here. They can switch between securities and mutual funds depending on what type of donation they will be making. And then they have a bunch of required forms that they'll have, required fields that they'll have to fill out to kind of go through that. Okay, so let's say we're happy with what this looks like. It's called Security Forms 2 because I already have a 1. Okay. So we can go back to all forms and we can kind of see exactly what that looks like. In the wild, we have one organization that has, well, we have many organizations that have been doing this, but here's an example of an organization that has been doing this. So this is Capitalized for Kids. If you go to their donate form or their donate page, they actually take you to a landing page with all the ways to give. So a ways to give page is something that at Canada Helps we always encourage for charities. If you're not familiar with it, it's essentially a landing page that explains to donors all the different ways that they can support your charity. At this particular charity, apart from the normal donation form that they have right at the top, the very first option that they highlight is donation of securities. So if we click into that one, and this is just an example of what you could potentially do on your website. They have a little bit of information about what donations of securities are. So again, maybe your donor base isn't familiar with it. Maybe this is the first time you're going into actually asking for donations of securities. It is a good idea to start educating them a little bit. What is a donation of security? Did you even know that you could donate that if you have that as part of your portfolio? And they have, I haven't actually gone in to see if all their information here is correct, but they do have a landing page here to kind of highlight what are the benefits to the charity, what are the benefits to the donor, how can we actually leverage those benefits to make sure that this gift is aligned with the values of the donor, like Patty was talking about. People want to make large gifts, and this is a way, an avenue for them to do that. So if you can highlight that in any way that you can, that is absolutely amazing. So from here, they have a donate button for their donation, securities donation form that they created. So if we click through to that, again, very similar to what we saw on the donations page that we created. If we click on the how it works, this is what it looks like on a more normal size screen, and you get a better idea of what this process looks like for the donor. So super simple. We have all of those pieces created for you, and you basically just kind of have to plug and play with all of your brand elements. If we go back here to, let's go to a test here and go back into editing the form. There's other options for your form setup that you can make sure that align with your charity. In terms of the core settings, if you want to make it bilingual, French only, English only, you have that option. You can choose which fund that this donation form will direct dollars towards. You can do that here as well. For donor options, you can allow the donors to leave a message to your charity or allow donors to remain anonymous. And for the thank you message, so this is a pre-created form or pre-created message that will be sent out to your donors. And attached to the end of this is a letter of direction. So I'll go into a little bit about what that means after this, but the letter of direction will be created automatically and attached to this automated email that gets sent out to each of your donors. You also have the option to add in a bit of personalization here. So if I just put in some text here, you see that it shows up just above all of this information that we already pre-populated for you. So again, you can do that in English and in French as well. Analytics, if your team does have anything set up on the analytics side, whether it's GA, GA4, or Google Tag Manager, you can throw those tags here as well. And for more accurate tracking, if you do want to make sure that it goes up to dashboards that you've set up on your side. So, every charity is different. We have that option for you if you want it. Yeah. And once everything is created, you have a lot of different options in order to actually get this form in front of your donors. So you can actually link to the form. So this form will live on its own kind of web space. You can link to it, and that's what a lot of charities do. You can embed the form. So we create an embed code that you can put right onto your website and have it just kind of live in line throughout any page on your website. And the last option that we offer is a QR code. So you can create a QR code that you can print out, you can download, you can make that available to people on your physical copies of like brochures or pamphlets or cards. If you have an in-person event and you want to talk about donations, you can make it super simple for people to just get to that donation form by them scanning that QR code. So lots of different options for you to get into there. And that's basically the creation process. Essentially, you are creating a donation form, a custom donation form, like you would any other type of custom donation form on Canada Helps, and then we help to make sure that we're collecting all the fields that we need to create that letter of direction. So let me just swap back to our presentation here, and I can talk a little bit more about what that process actually looks like for the donors. So on the donor side of things, like I've kind of walked you through what it looks like for the charity to actually create that. For the donors, all they have to do is they have to complete the online form. The donors will fill out a simple securities donation form like the one that we just created, and that'll generate a letter of direction. So what they'll have to do after that is they'll have to send that letter of direction to a broker. So the donor forwards that letter to their broker, authorizing the transfer of securities. Next, the securities are sold by Canada Helps. So once received, Canada Helps sells the securities and sends the proceeds, less a small fee of 2 to 3% depending on the amount of the donation, to your charity. And then the tax receipt is issued. So donors receive a tax receipt for the full market value of the securities on the date of the transfer. So that's what it looks like on their side. And there are a few reasons why it's set up that way. And I can kind of go over them quickly in our FAQs for donor charities. So what types of securities can our donors contribute? So Canada Helps only accepts publicly traded securities in Canada and the US. This includes stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. What is excluded is private company shares and stock options. So those are not eligible for donation. Common question number 2, how does a donor initiate a donation of securities? And I've kind of talked around this a little bit, but just to make it nice and clear, donors must complete and send a signed letter of direction to their broker. Neither Canada Helps nor their broker can initiate the transfer on behalf of the donor. So it actually has to come from the donor themselves. We'll make it as easy as possible. We'll provide them with all the information that they need. We'll even create that letter of direction, but it actually has to be initiated by the donor. So that's an important education piece that you have to get in front of your donors. Next, so how is the value of the donor's gift determined? So the value of the donation is determined by the closing bid price of securities on the day that they are received in Canada Help's brokerage account. Because there is sometimes a bit of a delay there, market fluctuations between the donor's initiation and Canada Help's receipt may affect the final value. So there might be a bit of a fluctuation there, but it should be relatively close because we are trying to move as quickly as possible. Number 4, how long will it take for Canada Helps to receive a donation? It may take several days for Canada Helps to receive the securities. For certain types, like mutual funds, it could take several weeks. It really does depend. We advise donors to initiate their transfers early, especially for year-end donations. So from a strategy standpoint, from an education standpoint, getting this messaging in front of those potential donors as early as possible is super important because it could take a little bit of time to process that through the brokerage accounts and to make sure that it actually lands in the Canada Helps brokerage accounts. So when will the donor receive their tax receipt? Tax receipts are issued after Canada Helps receives and values the securities based on the closing bid price on the day they are received. Okay. And is Canada Helps liable for delays during the transfer process? So like I've mentioned, there could be delays. It might take a bit of time. Unfortunately, no, Canada Helps is not responsible for the securities once they are, is only responsible for securities once they are received in our brokerage account. Delays can occur due to factors beyond our control, so donors are responsible for ensuring their broker processes the transfer in a timely manner. Of course, there's only so much that you can do, but that is really just to say that keep on top of what that process looks like, know what those timings look like, and keep in communication with your broker to encourage that it moves along quickly. Will Canada Helps hold on to the donated securities? So no, Canada Helps immediately sells all securities upon receipt. If an immediate sale isn't possible due to market conditions, the securities are sold as soon as feasible. So we do not want to hold on to it. We want to make sure it's sold as soon as we can to reflect the same or as close to the same value that the donor initiated with. And 8, are there any fees donors or our charity should be aware of? I've referenced this quickly in a few slides, but donors may face brokerage fees based on their own agreements with their brokers, depending on what system or platform that they are using. They might have some fees on that side. Canada Helps also charges a small transaction fee to cover the processing costs, including brokerage and banking fees. This fee helps Canada Help sustain its services to Canadian donors and charities. And as I mentioned, it's a sliding scale from 2 to 3%, depending on the size of the actual donation that is being made. That's basically all of the major FAQs that we commonly get on our side about how can charities actually get started with educating their donors about donations of securities. As a bit of a wrap up of some of the major points here and why it's important for your charity to start thinking about this, start encouraging donors, you can get larger donations. It's been kind of talked about quite a bit throughout this presentation. On average, securities donations are larger than cash contributions because of those tax advantages. So it's a really great benefit to you and to the donor. It's a hands-off process. Canada helps takes care of compliance, tax receipts, the sale of securities, reducing administrative load on your side. So if this seemed like an intimidating task before, trying to do all these things yourselves, this is a huge advantage of doing it through this platform. We will take care of a lot of the work for you. And third, there's multiple funds. You can direct security donations to specific funds or projects, allowing for targeted giving. So if you have these funds already set up on your side and you want to ensure that gifts of securities go towards funding a certain project or something that is really specific to your charity, you can do that. You can create a very targeted campaign, and the more targeted that you can get with your donors, the more personalized that you can get with your donors, the better. The better the message, the better the ask, and we really do encourage you to be as specific as you can with that. Okay, great. That's basically everything on my side in terms of actually creating and going through the process of accepting donations from the Canada Health side. Patty, was there anything else that you wanted to add on to, or
I
any?
ask you a question. Let's say you work in a hospital and you accept cash donations and donations all the time, and you process it yourself, but you've not the infrastructure to process donated securities. Can an organization have their own back office or their own processing in place and use you specifically for this?
Absolutely. As long as they are able to log on to the Canada Helps platform, there's some criteria for that in terms of being a CRA recognized charity within within Canada. As long as they meet those criteria and set up something on our side, these tools are free to use. They can create those forms and basically have that back office solution set up for them. So if they've never had that before, they can create that form right here as long as they meet that criteria and kind of register their charity on Canada Health's platform, and they'll be able to do that right away. So it really increases their capacity for sure.
So I think we should take this on the road, Phil. I think charities that are on the call right now and they've never asked donors to donate securities, maybe we could do, something to help them. I don't know. Reach out, talk to us, because there are lots of ways we can get really creative to get people to give back that maybe they just never thought of before.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the funnest things that we have, that we do on our side. We like to collect a lot of really fun ideas, creative ideas that charities use out in the wild, and kind of compile them and then share them as best practices, as case studies with other charities. So that's something that we can definitely start doing. Absolutely. Great, great. So I do see a bunch of questions popping up. A lot of them we have covered in the FAQs, and there are a few questions that are a bit more specific to certain charities. What we can do is, like I mentioned at the beginning, we're going to be sharing the recording, we're going to be sharing the slides with everybody who has registered, so we will send that out, but we'll also answer a bunch of those questions on the Canada Help side to make sure that everybody can see the questions that were asked, as well as the answers that we've put together, because they might be beneficial for others as well, and we'll share that in the summary notes. So we'll put those all together in one neat package, answer all those questions in another kind of FAQ format, and we'll be able to share that with everybody else.
Okay.
So, awesome. So again, thank you so much, Patty. We really do appreciate you for giving up a little bit of your time to share with us and to educate us on the gift of securities.
Great. I hope it makes a difference. Anyway, keep us posted with your success stories if there are any. I'm sure there will be.
For sure, for sure. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. And you will hear from us shortly with a summary email. All right. Have a great day.
Thanks.